Here we are July 6th in DeWitt, Michigan, and today I'm going to be harvesting honey. It's been super hot. It's 90 degrees out right now. It's going to be 93 later this afternoon. So it's going to be a hot one, but this honey is ready, and so we'll be harvesting that here soon. So stay tuned to the Red Winged Beekeeper, and I'll show you how I harvest the honey today. On my way out to the bee yard here in my bee mobile, I got my quad with a trailer on the back with all my bee stuff, so that's what I use to head on out with, and we'll be heading out shortly to go get some honey. Alright, so I have this hive opened up. Let's check out what this honey looks like in here. This is what we're looking for right here. You can see it's all white. That's all white cappings on the honey. Okay, and you know that honey is ready when it's capped. That means the bees have gotten it down to about 18% or so moisture level, and that's when you know the honey is ready. So it looks like there's a bunch of capped honey in here. Should be able to get a bunch of it out of this box for sure. I'm going to brush these bees off, and then I'm going to put it away. I was able to get 2 full boxes of honey out of that one hive, 20 frames. And so that should be a pretty good amount right there. I still have a few hives to go through yet in the back. And so next we're going to be heading back here to these other hives. Well, I have my honey all collected, and I didn't end up with as much as I had hoped. A lot of it wasn't quite capped the way I wanted it to be, but ended up with just over 2.5 boxes full of honey. I got it over here on the counter, and I'll show you my setup here. These are the buckets that I end up putting the honey in after I strain it. Here's my uncapping tank that I made. I'll be uncapping the frames in this thing. And here's my honey spinner. And I bought this last year, and I've used it. This will be my second year that I'll use it, and it's electric. It does 8 frames at a time. It does a great job. I love it. And so as you can see here, it's all stainless steel, and has electric motor there on it. So once I get going on this, I'll show on the video how we spin out the honey. Okay, the first thing I got to do here is do the uncapping of the frame. And so I'm going to take my knife. Some people use a heated knife. I just use this serrated knife. Works just fine. And I just take it on the frame like this and just kind of saw back and forth gently to take the cappings off of the honey. And it falls down into my decapping tank here. Okay, and anytime I have any cappings left over that doesn't come out, I can just take this scratcher thing and I just open up the cells like this. Okay, and I just flip it around and do the other side. Again, just sawing back and forth here until I'm all the way down to the bottom. And then once again, I can use the scratcher here to remove the rest of the cappings. And then the frame goes in the spinner. just repeat this process for each of the frames until I have 8 of them done, because my spinner will hold 8 medium frames. Once I have all 8 of those frames in my spinner here, okay, you can see they go in pairs, then I'm ready to turn it on and start spinning out the honey. What will happen is the honey will hit the inside of the stainless steel tank here, and it'll go down and collect in the bottom, and then once it gets deep enough, I will open up the spigot and it'll go through this metal strainer, which will take out any kind of wax and big parts of wax and things like that, and then it'll go down into the bucket. Alright, here we go, time to turn it on. Now sometimes it's a little bit out of center, so I'm going to stand on the base. Okay, I'm going to turn the on switch, and then I'm going to adjust the speed here with the dial on the top. So it might shake and shimmer a bit here when we first get started, but we'll try to hang on to it a little bit. So here you can see it spinning inside there. Okay, I turned off the spinner, and now I have to turn the frames around. So I have to lift them each out of there and then turn them around. So now that each of these frames has been spun in on the one side, I have to lift them out, flip them over, and we're going to extract the other side. So I got to do that with each of them. Okay, now that I've flipped those each over, now we're going to spin out the other side. So again, I'm going to turn it on, I'm going to dial it up. Slowly increase the speed. Now that I've spun out 12 frames so far, you can see the honey down there in the bottom of the tank. And the level is up high enough that the frames will dip into the honey when it spins around. So when that happens, I just have to come down here and open up the honey gate. And again, it's going to be strained by this stainless steel filter here when we do that. So we open this up, honey comes down into here, it'll go through that filter and take out any wax particles and things that might still be in that honey. There'll still be a little bit of the wax and a little bit of propolis and stuff in the honey. Once it goes through, that's what makes it raw. It's not really filtered, it's strained. And so, anyway, it's going to drip down there into the bucket there, you can see. And then once I get that level down far enough, I'll do the next round. So I'm kind of finishing up here. I have all of my frames extracted. Here's the empty frames now in the boxes. Okay, I have my uncapping tank. You can see in the bottom there all the honey draining through that was still caught in those wax cappings, and so I'm going to let that sit overnight and let it drain into the bottom there, so I can put that into a bucket tomorrow probably. This is a 5-gallon bucket. You can kind of see where the fill level is on it. Not quite full, but pretty full. Probably 4 gallons there, or close to it. And then I have a second bucket that I'm working on now, and you can see the strainer is draining into that bucket. So I still have quite a bit of honey left in the strainer. I'm sorry, in the spinner. And you know, I'm a teacher, and I always try to make these educational videos of my experiences, and so my Algebra 2 students would appreciate this. Here's my educational plug. for my honey extracting today. For the final product here, let's see what a bottle of honey is going to look like. I oftentimes will sell, I mostly sell quarts and some pints and these 1 pound squeeze bottles. And these are kind of nice because they have a no drip lid on them when I put the lid on. So anyway, we'll just fill up one of these here for the final product. And so we open up our honey gate. And here comes that beautiful golden honey. All that hard work for the day today is worth it. One pound of gorgeous, delicious honey. Well, I got to tell you that the cleanup part of extracting honey is the part that I hate the most. The good news is, though, that the bees will happily help. And so I put the extractor out here in the garden, and I don't see anybody in here yet, but you know, there's honey left over inside here a little bit. And I imagine once they find this, it'll just be covered with bees. And they'll clean all this up, they'll take it back to their hives, put it back in their hives, and I can extract it next time. So anyway, it's kind of cool that the bees will help with that. I'll have to rinse it out and finish the cleanup process maybe in a day or two. So today was a long, hot day. It got up to about 93 today. In Michigan here, it's been in the 90s the last couple days, and the high 80s probably the 5 days before that, and the next 3 or 4 days are supposed to be up in the mid 90s. So I started about 1 o'clock today. It's about 8 o'clock now. I'm tired, time to quit, and this is the hive I got most of the honey out of today. I'll be putting the extracted frames back in this hive and maybe a couple of the other hives tomorrow sometime. So I got about 8 gallons of honey total today, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. Not quite as much as I had expected. I had a lot of honey in these supers that are not capped quite yet, weren't quite ready to go. So in another month or so, probably in August, early August, I will extract again. And that time I would expect to get a lot more. I hope you learned a little something today. It's always kind of cool to see where your food comes from. And hopefully you enjoyed watching the video today on how I extracted the raw honey.